The night smells like iron and wet earth. It is not the clean smell of rain. It is heavy, old, as if the ground itself has been bleeding for years and never learned how to stop. The air presses against the lungs. Every breath scrapes. Somewhere behind the darkness. Artillery mutters like a bad dream that refuses to end. Hans Keller lies face down in the mud, his cheek half submerged, his lips tasting soil and oil and something bitter he cannot name. His fingers curl around a photograph in his pocket, not because he needs to see it, but because letting go feels like losing her a second time. He does not know how long he has been here. Time has become useless. Minutes stretch. Seconds snap. The only thing that matters is the sound of boots. American boots. They come closer. Not running. Walking. Confident. As if the war has already decided something and no longer needs to shout. Hans squeezes his eyes shut. He has been told what will happen. He has heard it since he was 16. Whispered by officers. Shouted by radios. Carved into fear itself. Capture means humiliation, beatings, starvation, revenge for every bomb dropped on London, every village burned, every body piled too high to count. The enemy does not take prisoners. The enemy smiles while killing. A shadow falls over him. Hand hoch. The voice is not angry. That is what confuses him most. Hans lifts his hands slowly. Mud drips from his sleeves. His arms tremble, not from cold, but from the effort of believing he is still alive. He waits for the kick. It does not come. Instead, a hand grips his shoulder, not rough, not gentle, just firm. Real. Easy, buddy. Buddy. The word makes no sense. They line them up at dawn. The fog thins reluctantly like a curtain being pulled back by an exhausted stagehand. Faces emerge one by one, boys, really, hollow-cheeked. Eyes too old. Uniform stiff with grime and dried blood. Some stare straight ahead. Others stare at nothing. Hans counts breaths to keep himself steady. 1, 2, 3. An American soldier walks down the line, chewing something. Gum, Hans realizes with a sudden, irrational clarity. Pink. Soft. Luxurious. The soldier blows a bubble. It pops. The sound is sharp. Final. Hans flinches. The soldier notices. His eyebrows lift, just slightly. He reaches into his pocket, pulls something out, and without ceremony presses it into Hans's palm. Chocolate, not a ration crumb, not a substitute. Real chocolate, wrapped, brown paper, unbroken. Hans does not eat it. He cannot. His fingers close around it like a child gripping a talisman. If he opens his mouth, he might scream. This must be a trick. The transport begins that afternoon. They are herded into trucks, then trains. The boxcars are wooden, rough, smelling of grain and old sweat, but they are not sealed. Light spills through cracks. Air moves. No one is stacked on top of anyone else. Someone whispers, "Why are they feeding us?" No one answers. Hans sits with his back against the wall, knees pulled in. The chocolate's still hidden. Across from him, a man named Otto rubs his wrists, staring at the floor. "They'll fatten us," Otto says quietly. "Then they'll work us." Hans thinks of home. He thinks of his mother boiling potato peels twice to trick hunger into leaving sooner. Of bread so thin it breaks if you breathe wrong. Of the last letter from his sister, ink faded, apologizing for being alive. He thinks, why would an enemy waste food on us? The train lurches forward. Days pass, or nights, or both tangled together. At stations, Americans hand them food. Bread that tears properly, soup that smells like onions and meat, real meat, coffee that burns the tongue and wakes something dangerous inside the chest hope. Hans writes in his head because he has no paper. If this is a lie, he thinks, it is a very elaborate one. The landscape changes. Ruins give way to fields. Fields to towns untouched by fire. Houses stand straight. Windows unbroken. Children wave. Children. A boy runs alongside the train for a moment, laughing before his mother pulls him back. Hans turns his face away, shame rising hot and sharp. He does not deserve to see this. None of them do. They cross water. Hans knows because the air changes. It tastes clean, endless. The horizon refuses to end. The ship's engine hums steadily, not strained, not desperate. At night, he lies in a bunk with a mattress that does not smell like death. He dreams of bread. In the morning, an American guard hands him soap. Soap, white, smooth, scented faintly of something floral. Hans turns it over in his hands, stunned. Soap has become a memory, a rumor from another life. Wash up, the guard says. Hans hesitates. Why? The guard shrugs. Because you're dirty. No hatred, no irony, just a fact. Hans washes his hands slowly, watching brown water swirl down the drain. His skin looks unfamiliar beneath the grime, paler, younger. He presses his thumbs together, grounding himself. This is not real, he tells himself. This cannot last. America reveals itself without ceremony. No burning skyline, no collapsed bridges, no smoke clawing at the sun. Just roads, endless roads, signs he cannot read, gas stations bright as dreams. Cars everywhere, shiny and whole. The camp appears suddenly, surrounded by wire, but the wire feels different here, less like a cage, more like a boundary. They are counted, processed, given numbers. Hans expects shouting. Instead, he hears instructions. Calm, almost polite. Inside the barracks, bunks are spaced evenly. Blankets are thick. The air smells of disinfectant and pine cleaner. Someone laughs. A short, broken sound, immediately swallowed by silence. Dinner is waiting. Plates. Actual plates. Dinner is waiting. Plates. Actual plates. Forks. Meatloaf. Potatoes swimming in butter. Green beans. Bread with a crust that crackles when torn. Hans's hands shake so badly he drops his fork. He does not cry when he eats. He cries after. Quietly. Ashamed. Grateful. Furious at himself for feeling grateful. Across the table, Otto whispers, "If my mother could see this," he does not finish. Hans writes his first real diary entry that night on a scrap of paper stolen from an office. Day unknown. Location unknown. The enemy feeds us better than home. I do not know what this means. I am afraid to find out. Outside, the night is peaceful. No bombs. No sirens. Just crickets. Hans lies awake, staring at the ceiling, the taste of butter still on his tongue, and wonders if monsters can be kind, then what does that make us? Morning arrives without violence. That is the first betrayal. No siren slices the dark. No ground trembles. No ceiling dust drifts down like ash. Instead, light slips through the barrack windows gently, almost politely, touching the edges of bunks and blankets as if asking permission. Hans wakes confused, his body braced for impact that never comes. For a moment, he does not remember where he is. Then the smell reaches him: coffee, real coffee. Bitter, warm, alive. It pulls him upright faster than fear ever did. Around him, men stir. Someone coughs. Someone laughs softly, as if afraid the sound might be punished. Outside, boots crunch on gravel. Not rushed. Measured. The sound of a world that is not collapsing. Breakfast waits in the mess hall. Eggs. Yellow, soft, steaming. Bread that does not crumble into dust. Butter wrapped in paper so thin it feels sinful to peel it away. Jam red, glossy, sweet enough to make the jaw ache. Hans eats slowly, deliberately, as if speed might summon guilt. Across from him, a young soldier named Friedrich stares at his plate, unmoving. "Eat," Hans whispers. Friedrich shakes his head. "If I start, I won't stop." Hans understands. Hunger has carved something permanent inside them, a hollow that fear alone cannot fill. Later, they are assigned work, not punishment, not forced labor under the lash. Maintenance, cleaning, cooking, repairing fences already intact. An American sergeant explains the rules. His voice is flat, professional. Do your job. Follow orders. You'll be treated fairly. The word lands strangely. Hans rolls it around in his head like a foreign coin. He is given gloves. Actual gloves. Thick. Clean. As he rakes leaves beneath tall trees whose branches are unbroken, he listens to the sound they make. Dry, crisp, alive. Autumn, untouched by war. The leaves remind him of home before everything went wrong. Before the shouting. Before the flags replaced faces. At lunch, they receive apples. Apples. Hans turns one over in his hands, marveling at the smooth skin, the way it reflects light. He presses his thumb into it. Firm. Fresh. Otto bites into his and freezes. Juice runs down his wrist. He laughs then. Loud. Uncontrolled. A laugh that cracks into something dangerously close to sobbing. An American guard looks over. "You okay?" he asks. Otto nods, wiping his face. "Yes," he manages. "Just yes." Letters begin to arrive. Not all at once. Slowly, like wounds reopening one by one. Hans receives his after dinner. The paper thin creased, smelling faintly of smoke and something sour. He recognizes his mother's handwriting immediately tight, careful, conserving ink the way she once conserved flour. He waits until lights out to read it. "My dear Hans, we are still here. That is all I can promise. The city is quieter now. Not because of peace, but because there is nothing left to hit. Your sister helps where she can. She has lost weight. We all have. Do not worry about us. Think only of surviving." Hans folds the letter with trembling hands. Surviving. He thinks of the meatloaf, the soap, the apples. He feels something twist inside him, sharp and corrosive. Across the barracks, Friedrich stares at his own letter, lips moving silently. "What does it say?" Hans asks. Friedrich swallows. "My father is gone. Nothing more needs to be said." That night, Hans writes, "I am warm while my mother is cold. I am full while my mother is cold. I am full while my sister is thin. The enemy gives me seconds." He presses the paper flat beneath his mattress, as if hiding it from judgment. The Americans show them films. At first, everyone assumes it is propaganda, a counterweapon, a trick. The lights dim. The projector whirs. Cities appear on the screen. New York, Chicago, places Hans as only heard of as targets. Skyscrapers rise intact into the sky. Streets pulse with people. Factories hum. No ruins. No desperation. A man beside Hans whispers, "Why haven't we bombed them?" No one answers because the answer is unbearable. Later they are taken outside the camp on supervised work details. Hans walks past houses with white fences. Children ride bicycles. A woman waters flowers, humming. She looks up. Their eyes meet. She does not flinch. She nods. Hans lowers his gaze, his face burning. The humiliation is worse than hatred would have been. That evening, Otto mutters, "They should hate us." Hans knows what he means. Kindness feels like an accusation. The internal war begins quietly. No shouting, no orders. Just questions that refuse to stay buried. Why were we told they were monsters? Why do they treat us like men? An American guard named Miller starts talking to Hans during work shifts. About baseball. About his farm back home. About missing his wife. "I didn't want to come," Miller admits once, leaning on his shovel. "But someone had to." Hans nods, unsure how to respond. That night, he dreams of standing between two mirrors, his reflection splitting endlessly. He wakes sweating. In his diary he writes, "If the enemy is human, then what have we been fighting?" Food continues to arrive. Too much. Always too much. Second helpings. Desserts. Milk. Hans watches men hoard bread instinctively, stuffing it into pockets, then slowly stop as days pass and no punishment comes. Friedrich gains weight. Color returns to his cheeks. One afternoon, Friedrich says quietly, "I don't recognize myself." Hans does. He recognizes the fear of becoming comfortable. Letters from home grow worse. Shorter. Colder. Apologetic. "We traded your coat for flour." The neighbors are gone. Winter is coming. Winter is coming. Hans reads these letters under a sky so blue it feels obscene. The guilt becomes physical, a weight in his chest, a tightness in his throat. At dinner, he pushes his plate away half-finished. Otto watches him. "Don't," he says. "They don't starve because you eat less." Hans knows Otto is right. He eats anyway. The shame does not lessen. The camp changes them, not their bodies, their minds. They stop flinching. They stop whispering. They start asking questions, quiet ones, dangerous ones. What happens after the war? What if we were wrong? What if home doesn't want us anymore? One night, Hans hears crying. It is Otto. Hans sits beside him in the dark. "I believed everything," Otto whispers. "Everything they said." Hans says nothing because there is no defense left. The silence stretches. Outside, the wind moves through trees untouched by shrapnel, whispering truths no one taught them how to hear. Hans writes one final entry before sleep. "They defeat us without raising a hand. They let us see ourselves clearly. I do not know how to go back from this." Winter arrives gently in America. That, too, feels like an insult. Snow falls without urgency, soft as ash but clean, untouched by fire. It settles on rooftops that remain standing, on roads that still lead somewhere. Hans watches it through the barrack window, his breath fogging the glass, his reflection staring back at him like a stranger who knows too much. He no longer counts the days. Time has stopped behaving like an enemy. It stretches. It waits. Inside the camp, routines harden into habits. Habits soften into something almost like peace. That realization terrifies him more than capture ever did. The Americans decorate a small tree near the mess hall. Christmas. They do not invite celebration. They simply do it. Lights appear one evening, quiet and warm. Someone plays a record music without marching, without shouting. A song about home. Hans stands at the edge of the crowd, hands shoved deep into his coat pockets. At dinner, they serve turkey. Turkey! The smell hits him first rich, heavy, impossible. His stomach tightens painfully, not from hunger, but from memory. Christmas before the war, his mother carving carefully, apologizing for the portions. His sister sneaking extra skin onto his plate. He cannot swallow the first bite. Otto notices. "It's all right," he whispers. "You're still allowed to remember." That night, Hans dreams of home again, but now it is split in two. One half burning, one half intact. He stands between them, unable to move. The letters stop coming. At first, Hans tells himself it is weather. Delays, logistics. Then weeks pass. He learns not to ask out loud. One afternoon, an American chaplain visits the camp. He speaks gently, offers conversation, prayer. Hans does not pray. Instead, he asks, "Do you think people can be forgiven without asking?" The chaplain studies him for a long moment. "I think people forgive themselves last," he says. That answer follows Hans everywhere. He begins to notice how the Americans look at them not with suspicion anymore, but with curiosity, sometimes even sympathy. That, more than hatred, breaks something open inside him. He writes, "They do not need us to suffer. They do not need us to suffer. They do not need us to disappear. They only need us to see." The announcement comes on an ordinary morning. No fanfare, no warning. They are assembled in the yard. The air is cold enough to sting. Breath hangs visible between bodies. An officer reads from a paper. Repatriation. The word ripples through the group slowly, like sound underwater. Home. Hans feels nothing at first. Then everything. Around him, reactions fracture. Some men smile. Some sink to the ground. Someone vomits. Otto grips Hans's sleeve. "What if there is nothing left?" he whispers. Hans does not answer because he no longer believes reassurance is honest. That night, no one sleeps. They pack quietly. Fold blankets. They will not take. Return utensils. Small rituals of departure. Hans holds the soap he has saved since the first week. It is worn thin now, edges rounded by use. He slips it into his pocket. On the bunk beside him, Friedrich stares at the ceiling. "I don't know how to be who I was," he says. Hans replies softly, "Neither do I." They sit in silence, listening to the camp breathe one last time around them. The journey back feels heavier. The same ocean, now colder. The same distance, now crowded with fear. Hans stands at the rail, watching the water churn endlessly. What will I say if she is alive? What will I say if she is not? He practices neither. Germany appears grey. Not ruined all at once, but exhausted, bent, hollowed out. Cities look smaller than he remembers. Streets narrower, faces sharper. The air smells different here. Sour, burnt, familiar. They are processed quickly, efficiently. No celebration. Hans walks toward what used to be his neighborhood. His house is gone, not destroyed, removed. His house is gone, not destroyed, removed, as if it never mattered enough to collapse dramatically. A woman recognizes him on the street. She pauses, squints. "Hans?" she asks. He nods. She looks away. "Your mother, she waited." That is all she says. Later, much later, Hans sits alone in a room with one intact chair. He places the soap on the table. He opens his diary for the last time. "I believed lies because they were loud. The truth was quiet. It fed me. It washed me. It let me live." He closes the book. "Outside, it fed me. It washed me. It let me live." He closes the book. Outside, Germany rebuilds slowly, painfully, honestly. Hans steps into the cold air, carrying nothing but memory. And somewhere across an ocean, a place exists where his enemy showed him his humanity by refusing to take it away. He walks forward, not forgiven. But await.